The golf grip might be the most important part of your swing, especially if you're someone who has a hard time controlling the club face. The club face dictates 85% of where the golf ball starts and where it's going to go, so we need to make sure we get that down. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to get a proper grip, how it should be positioned within your hand, how to pick between a stronger or a weaker grip, and then how to pair that with the proper wrist positions, because those two things go together. So whether you're struggling with a slice, a hook, poor contact, any of those things, this video is going to be very helpful for you. This is part one of our beginner basics series, but honestly, this video is really for anyone. Grip is one of the things that you cannot over perfect. You still see Scotty Scheffler sitting there every day on the range for his practice time, working on with the grip trainer, making sure that grip is dialed in as close to perfection as you can get. So the first thing that I like to talk about with players is kind of what most people do, so they can get a visualization of what most players are doing and then a visualization of what they should be doing. So if you walk down a range at any course, you're going to see a boatload of people who are gripping the club deep into the palm. They're taking their trail hand, they're probably baseball gripping it, and they're turning their other hand underneath. It'll probably look something like this. That grip is deep up in the palm here. This trail hand is dominating the grip. It's what they're using to try to control their club face, and it leads to a lot of issues with consistency because you cannot properly release the club. So what we want to do, rather than having the grip in the palm of the lead hand, we want to make sure we get it into the fingers properly. We always start with the lead hand, because once you get the lead hand down properly, the trail hand kind of falls into place very nicely. So this lead hand, we should think of it this way. We should think of the base of the pinky finger here being the starting point of the club, the butt of the club, and it runs this first joint to the pointer finger. So it'll sit on at a very slight angle, like such. From here, we let the fingers come around the club, and then we just put our thumb down. You can see how I have a bit of a gap here in my palm here. The club is not running deep up into the palm like it would a baseball bat or a hammer or something of that nature. It's sitting down here in the fingers. So that's step one. We get that positioned properly, and we just want to have it set pretty comfortably where we can kind of see this V pointing up between our chin and our trail shoulder. We'll get more to strong versus weak grip in a second. Second off, we take the trail hand, we put it on. Now we have two options here. We can either interlock or overlap. We're going to avoid the 10-finger grip or the baseball grip, primarily because the reason people do this is because they like to overuse their trail hand. They like to use that hand to try to control what the club face does at impact. They're trying to use that to shut the face. Now, what we see with every good golfer on the tour, the averages are 70-30, 70% of their lead hand doing the work and 30% coming from the trail hand. So that is a big reason as to why we want to interlock or overlap. So you can pick, does not make a difference, both work just fine. I will say if you have smaller hands, you'll probably find that interlocking feels a little bit better. If you've got slightly bigger hands, you're probably going to find the overlap feels a little bit better, but it's all up to you, whatever feels best. Once you've picked one of those, then what we're going to do is look at how we set this hand onto the club. We want to set it on so that this groove here through the palm sits right onto the thumb, and then these three fingers here sit onto the shaft, sort of like a trigger. We're pulling a trigger. They're not wrapped way around. You can see right here, I'm gripped in the fingers. My palm is fitting nicely onto that thumb there, and this thumb is just falling across towards my pointer. You can see I'm not running it straight down the shaft. That's again something people do when they like to use their trail hand to close the face. So we're set on pretty nicely. Now we have a very fundamentally solid neutral grip. Now what I want you to do is try to differentiate between a strong grip and a weak grip. There's a couple things that go into this. The first thing that we want to look at is actually what your wrist position on the lead wrist does during your swing. So if you're a player who plays with a lot of bow in your wrist, you come down with a lot of bow, that's going to help shut the club face. So if you pair a bowed wrist with a really strong grip like this, you're going to come down with way too much closure of the club face, and it's going to send the ball to the left as a right-handed golfer. Now, and on the opposite side of the spectrum there, if you're a player who plays with a very neutral wrist, we'll talk about a cupped wrist in a second, the face is going to come down much more open. So if you're playing with a very weak grip, that club is going to be open. So oftentimes players who play with more of a bowed lead wrist will play with a weaker grip, and players who play with more of a neutral lead wrist will play with a stronger grip. Now, the one other thing to mention is the cupped wrist. You'll see a lot of amateur golfers playing with a cupped wrist, and I don't care how strong you grip the club, if you have a cupped wrist coming down, that face is going to stay open, and it's going to cause you to flip, and you're not going to release the club well. So we have to make sure that that lead wrist is at least neutral. The easiest way to think about this, I found, is just feeling that the back of your hand is kind of coming down and you're trying to hit the ball with that. If you do that with a cupped wrist, it really doesn't work. You can't do it, and you'll get to feel it pretty quickly. You can even take a ping pong paddle or a pickleball paddle and hold a backhand and work on this motion here, and that'll help you get the feel of what it should feel like to sort of release the wrist with a slight bow in the wrist. So let's say you're someone who's playing with a pretty neutral wrist. That's pretty common. We can still have a little bit of variation from weak to neutral to strong grip with this. You'll still find some variation. The way that you can test this is by where your shot goes. So if you're a player who hits, let's say you hit a shot and your ball starts out right and continues to go right. It looks something like this. You're coming from the inside, that ball is starting out to the right, and it's continuing to go right. You're probably a player who needs a bit of a stronger grip because your path is coming from the inside, which is a draw biased path, but your grip is not strong enough to get the ball to turn back over. So if you're someone who has that going on, we are going to strengthen the grip a little bit. We strengthen that grip a little bit, and now all of a sudden, you swing from the inside, but you close the face, and you can see how the ball will start to draw back to its starting line, even though the path was way from the inside. Now, let's say on the opposite side of this, you're someone who maybe swings a little over the top. Now, if we're way over the top or away from the inside, we need to balance the path a little bit, but let's say you're 2 degrees, sort of over the top or to the left. What's gonna happen is you're gonna be someone who pulls the ball. It kind of goes straight left, and you might even get the kind of pull draw. In that case, we need a little bit of a weaker grip. So, and that would actually cut back a little bit. A better example would be if I strengthen it even more and I swing that way, how it will sort of keep going out that way and it won't come back. Now, if I were trying to play a little bit of a cut, I just need to have my grip a little bit weaker to let it cut back more. So I can still swing to the left a little bit, but my grip is weak enough there that will cut back to the center line. So it's all about matchups. We're just trying to match up your shot with your path to your grip. So the first thing that we check, where's the wrist angle at? We're making sure there's no cupping. We're making sure that we're in a neutral or bowed position. Then we're looking at where your ball likes to go naturally. Then we're just strengthening or weakening the grip to help it curve back to the start line. And we're always making sure that that grip is gripped in the fingers, it's running through the fingers and never through the palm. That is pretty much all you need to know about the grip to start out. Down the road, you can play around with some more stuff, kind of adjusting and working on stuff when you change the path, but start from that sort of neutral position and work out from there. And remember too, when you're gripping the club, you should not be death gripping it so tight that the arms or the muscles in your arms are popping out, the veins are popping out of your arm. You should be gripping it firmly, especially with the driver. You're gonna grip it quite firmly, but you're not trying to crush it. We're not trying to hold it super loose. That more is in the short game with the wedges around the green, but it should be a nice, firm, solid grip so that it feels like we have control, but it's not so tight that we move like a big stiff robot. If you found this video helpful, please drop a comment and a like down below. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Also subscribe because we're gonna have a lot more content coming. We're gonna keep moving on with this beginners kind of swing fundamentals series where we're gonna kind of go through starting point with the most important things and working our way up through all the fundamentals to kind of build you your perfect swing. So not like we're trying to build you into a robot, but the fundamentals that every player should have in their swing. So thanks for watching.